Here's the good parts about the win on Sunday. You head off into the postseason, the off-season, I should say, with positive vibes, with a little bit of credibility for the coaches, right? If you listen to us, you will finish the season better than you started it. You go into the offseason with Bryce Young as your guy, right? There's no longer a need to bring in legitimate competition. He can be your starting quarterback. He can be the one that everybody wants to go talk to. If you have a question about the offense, you can go to Bryce. Dave Canales, no longer a rookie head coach, and it showed. Loved his play calling on Sunday as much as I've loved his play calling at any point in time this year. You're going to hear me reference this a few times, but I think it shows Dave Canales' comfortability and confidence. The touchdown that Bryce Young threw, and then he turned around and put his arms up before the ball was caught, and everyone's calling it like Steph Curry vibes. If you watch the wide angle, guess what else was taking place on that play? Brady Christensen, the right tackle, was running a shallow route to the left. He was out in the route as a wide receiver. That is an offensive coordinator, offensive mind, play caller. That's a Dave Canales swaggy move.
He was in his bag yesterday.
To have a right tackle running a route and have it not even really be a part of the play, just like, hey, I'm setting this up for something later. Lot to like about that game. Here's the negative. You're picking 8th. After that win, you're picking 8th. If you would have lost that game based on the way everything else broke, based on the way, other teams won and lost, Patriots win, all those sorts of things, you would have been picking 3rd if you lose that game. Now, that is real value, okay? That is real value. A 5 picks from 3rd to 8th, the top of the draft, it is real value. Can you find a stud at 8? Yes. But historically, if you go back and look at the numbers, you're much more likely to find a better player at 3 than you are at 8. So there's real value there. Now, we can get into the philosophy, we can get into the theory of what's better for the team to have a better player, likely percentage-wise, in the draft, or to get that win and to build the culture and everything else. We can have that debate, and I've had it with many of you on Twitter. What you need to do now, regardless of how we feel about it, regardless of how I might be on the side that thinks having better Jimmys and Joes is more important, regardless of that, you better find the value in winning that game. You better build off of that game. You better use that game to improve your team more than the difference between pick 3 and pick 8. That's all you have right now. The game meant something to the players. The game meant something to the coaches. You could tell by how they reacted. There was no, was I supposed to do that? It was straight hands up in the air, overtime touchdown, we won, woo. You better use it for all it's worth. Right? If you say miss out on Abdul Carter, edge from Penn State, Mason Graham, interior defensive lineman from Michigan, Tataroa McMillan, the wide receiver, whoever your number 1 is, if you miss out on them because of this play, you better have found as much value out of this game. Dave Canales spoke to the media earlier today. That's the head coach. He was asked what he's learned about himself this season.
Just openness to learn from people who have done it before, who have been a head coach, and then also just coordinators and position coaches who have been around football for a long time, and to take in all the information possible, and then to try to make the best decisions weekly, really daily, that I feel are best for our team, from a football standpoint. And so hopefully just learning that has helped me, and making sure that I continue to have that openness to collect all the information and make those decisions collectively.
This is going to sound weird, but this is what I think Dave Canales actually learned the most, and it's along the lines of what he said. It's to narrow his focus on game day. I think at the beginning, right, first time being a head coach, he was trying to see everything. Right, he was trying to, when the defense is on the field, see everything that the defense is doing while also preparing for the next offensive drive, while also talking to Bryce Young or Andy Dalton, while also letting the wide receivers know, here's what I see, while also trying to decide if he should challenge the next play, while also trying to make it and it got a little much by the end. It was like, I'm going to focus on the offense. I'm going to focus on the play calling. I'm obviously going to be aware of everything, but I'm not going to bog myself down in the details, and that freed him up a bit. Now, the interesting part is when it freed him up, that meant he was trusting Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator, to kind of be the captain of the defense, right? You don't have the head coach looking over your shoulder. You have to handle it, and it didn't always go great. The defense gave up more points than any team in the history of the NFL.
Bruh.
That's a raw total. It's a bit misleading. In actuality, it wasn't the worst defense in NFL history. It was like the 5th worst defense in NFL history.
Oh, that makes it so much better.
If I were the defensive coordinator, I would want someone to make that differentiation for me, right? Because points per game is more important than gross total. It wasn't the worst in points per game, but it was the worst in raw total amount points given up. What we did learn today is Evero's job is safe. Canales was asked if Evero will be back. In part, this was his answer.
Ejiro will be back with us as our defensive coordinator. We have a lot of things to evaluate, over the next couple of days, and then, certainly, into the off season to reflect on our schemes, to reflect on our personnel, to reflect on the guys we have here going forward. And so, there's a lot of really important conversations, about all those factors. That'll be great to have.
I'm a bit shocked by that. But I think I'm going against the grain here. I don't hate bringing Evero back. First of all, it shows that Canales is all in on Evero, right? And I wasn't sure because he was kind of inherited. He was defensive coordinator prior to Canales showing up, so I wasn't positive. Second, this franchise needs an overcorrection of patience. They've been very quick to do things over the last 2-3 years, and I think an overcorrection to patience is not the worst thing in the world. And then lastly, and this is the reason why I actually think it's not a horrendous decision, is the guy wasn't given a lot to work with this year. The defensive roster lacked quite a bit at the beginning of the year, and then he got hit pretty aggressively in pretty specific places by injuries. Derrick Brown early on, Shaq Thompson early on. Those were 2 of the probably 10 people on the roster, and Derrick Brown maybe top 3 at the beginning of the year. If you would have said, who can they not afford to get hurt? It would have been like, those guys. Lost them for long stretches and never really got it back going. Jadeveon Clowney didn't live up to expectations. They haven't drafted well on the defensive side of the ball in a lot of ways. So giving him another shot, he was well-respected enough last year to interview all over the place. So I don't hate the move. Now it's time to make it good, right? If Dave Canales shows confidence in Evero has to live up to that confidence next year, when I'm sure they'll spend some money in free agency, spend some draft capital to give him better players. Now you have to go put together a better defense.